Oh, but welcome to the math overview of Pathway to Careers. I am Keana Winston. I am the senior education consultant with Pathway to Careers, and I am a former classroom teacher that kind of can't stay away from the classroom myself. I taught fourth grade, came through Teach for America. I coached with Teach for America in a couple of different states. I've been a math coach for K through 8 in Alabama and a couple of other states across the country. And now I help with high school math, curriculum, professional development, and also now some coaching. And fun fact, what part of West Virginia are you in, Mr. Boyce?
Pretty much the central part. It's Webster County. It's as
Gotcha.
far back out as we can get.
What'd you say?
About as far back out as we can get.
Okay. I actually, when my memory kicked in, like, there was when you were born and then when you started remembering stuff, I was actually living in Fairmont. So I'm from West Virginia as well. Yeah, went to school in Monongah at St. Peter and Paul. It's torn down now, but yep. So I'm a mountaineer myself. So I am going to go ahead and hop in, just kind of overview the curriculum in general from the math perspective, and then kind of take you on a very short trip through some different, I'm sorry, not trip through different aspects, I'm sorry, but an overview of the lesson. So a quick overview of the curriculum. I'm sure you attended one of the sessions already to see what we're about.
No, this is the first session I've done. So on this
Oh,
on this particular one.
okay. Not even like an informational
No,
session.
the only thing I've seen is the sample copies we got at our school.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
The sample copies we got at our school.
Gotcha. Okay. So here, I'm actually going to take a quick detour. I'm going to pause my screen for a second because there are some things that are pretty important to know. Okay, there we go. So just kind of some of what I would have told you if I were there, someone would have been there, just who we are. Pathway to Careers is the name of our company because we believe in making a pathway to careers. Um, there's my contact information. That's an old picture, but I'll drop that in the chat. But the purpose of our platform is to provide career-connected learning to students. So when they're doing math and they're wondering, why are we doing this? If they don't have a purpose for it, they don't want to do it. And I don't know that I blame them. Because they don't see the future the way that we see it. Like, we know how everything that we're teaching them is going to benefit them in the future, how essential it is, but they don't. And
Yeah,
so we have this platform. The purpose of it is to expose students to careers, to make the math relevant, and then actually let them practice that real world math experience and getting that engagement. Um, and so I won't too much go over this, but having a purpose in learning motivates kids to learn, motivates them to complete their tasks, helps with performance, helps them to retain new information, and then helps them to be persistent in learning. And, disengagement increases or engagement decreases as kids get older. And we see it, you can be in a town, you have 5 or 6 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 1 high school, same size class sizes. So the kids are going somewhere. And curious, what grade levels do you teach?
personally, I teach the senior now.
Okay,
Yeah, now I'm doing this. I'm basically listening to it for the whole school, but yeah, because our school's 7 through 8 or
gotcha.
7 through 12. Sorry.
7 through 12. And if you guys want another presentation, like, I'm happy to come in, and do with whoever needs. But
Okay.
just looking at some, Gallup student polls, disengagement is increasing, or engagement itself is decreasing as students get older. And this is the opposite of what we need to see, because if this is it at high school,
Yeah.
it only gets worse from there until they're, grown midlife and are like, dang, I wish I would have listened.
Yeah.
Um, but the effects on motivation and dropout prevention, the biggest effector, or the biggest effect on it is actually career development and job training. It's kids having that understanding of, what we're doing and making sure that it's applied. And then all these other things, the family engagement, mentoring, that stuff is built into our curriculum. And hello, I see we had someone just join. Hi. I am Keana Winston, the Senior Education Consultant with Pathway to Careers. And I was just overviewing the curriculum before we get into the lesson demo. But what we do is we answer that question about when are we ever going to need to, use this, by pulling in career data for your area and integrating it into the lesson. So we're hitting a couple of birds with one stone. We're exposing kids to careers. We're showing them what those pathways to get there look like. We're showing them what their actual future could look like by pulling in that job information for their local market so that they can plan. And then we're taking the math skills that they need to be learning according to state standards and applying them in the context of those jobs. So that's the short story. And I'm happy, like, to give a whole separate overview. And when I say happy, I mean like enjoy it too much to whomever would like to see it. But get into the overview. Here, this is me, and this is my little, he's 11. And just kind of like a testament to the importance of kids having a purpose. On his shirt is a little heartbeat, and there's an airplane. We're actually in the parking lot headed to his flight lesson. He is on year 2 of earning hours for his private license. And having like that focus, knowing what the future looks like, has changed like that perspective for him to be motivated to do math, because he's like, oh, I see why I need this if I'm going to be a pilot. And just, it makes a difference if kids know that what you put in front of them has a purpose. And so looking at our curriculum, just a quick overview. Again, we connect careers to curriculum, looking at surveys, and there was one in the other slideshow that I pulled back, but the discrepancy between what post-secondary secondary educators and then post-secondary educators say there is between preparedness is huge. I think it's something, I don't remember exactly how high it is, but it's less than 15% of college educators and, career trainers are saying that kids are coming in with the skills that they need to learn, versus almost 30% of teachers are saying, oh yes, they're prepared. And so there's something that's not translating between the education and the application when they actually get into the careers. And so we're helping bridge that gap by connecting those learning needs to the workforce needs and bridging them together. And so our objectives are for kids to understand the value of math skills in the workplace, to be exposed to careers and develop a purpose in their learning. Right now, we have 8th grade / pre-algebra, algebra 1 and 2 in geometry, and we have developed separately an entire course catalog with aligned objectives and standards specifically for integrated math for West Virginia. Within our curriculum, we've got more than 650 careers. They are all high growth, high wage. They're all going to meet like Perkins 5 reporting requirements. Well, the reports, I got lost in talking about something different. Sorry, the labor market navigator. But our application lessons are going to focus on high growth, high wage careers. And we have about 200 lessons where we're just applying that mathematical concept to one in-depth career. And then we have additional lessons that can be used just to explore the math itself. And again, we are aligned with specific standards, state standards. They're clearly identified in every lesson. And then each skill and concept is explored and tracked separately. The curriculum is written by experts using best practices and research. And this overview, I'm kind of glancing over because we're going to see it live in the platform. Okay. But we're going to go ahead and jump into a lesson, and let me make sure that I am slated to get us out of here on time. And so once again, question and answer document in the chat, and I'm going to pause there to see what questions we have. Okay, looks like we're good to keep going. And once again, that Q&A document is in the chat so that you guys can, at your leisure, just kind of add questions to it. So here in our platform, just taking a look at the home page, pretty straightforward. The biggest thing that stands out to me is this career spotlight, because every time I go in there and refresh it or leave and come back, being exposed to a different career. And knowing that these things exist and knowing that students can do it is sometimes the difference in staying in school, being motivated, knowing that there is a place that they fit. And so we always start with the end in mind, that career. So here we've got graphic designers. We've got a video here that comes from the BLS website, a description, and then an average of the wages. These are national. And as I click into the careers, I have information specific to your area. So, of course, I've got, again, that description, the cluster, so that if they're like, hey, I like some things about this career, but not everything, what else do you have along these lines? Go and explore that cluster, the pathways, visual arts, and then the education that's required so that they know how long you need to be in school for it. This labor market information comes from our labor market navigator, which comes from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics and ONET. We have updated information on annual openings and also their wages. These again are specific to your area. And so not only the annual openings, but also the projected job growth and projected new jobs, median wage, so that the kids know what the labor market is going to look like, or it's predicted to look like when they're actually entering it. So we've got this career video, some related careers, a career story, and this one we have too. And this is from a person that actually works in the career, hearing what their day is like. And then we've got some of the tasks for the career, the requirements, the knowledge, skills, and abilities. And those are attached to an interest inventory that kind of helps kids to see their personality profile and look at the things that they're interested in, the things that they value, and knowing from there what would be some good careers for them. And this describes some of the characteristics of a person who would probably be well suited to be a graphic designer. Interest and values. And then when are we ever going to use this? All of these math lessons. So that's for you to think one way that I could attack if I were looking at using this curriculum to supplement specific careers or specific interests. Can look at those interests and look at all these aligned math lessons. Or just simply teaching the lessons and exposing students to multiple careers. We explain to them the training and experience, and then here's an ROI analyzer. I won't go into that, but it's basically where we're calculating the average public or private university cost and allowing them to pull in the average the average salary, which is already pulled in from the ONET data, and how long it would take to pay that back. So that way they can see what the return on investment would be for a career and determine whether or not that's something that makes financial sense to them. Okay, so now I'm going to jump into a lesson. All right. Okay, sorry, I'm checking my time. All right. Let's first look at an exploration lesson. And an exploration lesson is going to be one where I'm just exploring the math. And so whether you decided to use this as your core curriculum or a supplemental curriculum, either one, it makes sense, because I can pull in the exploration lessons for like students that are struggling with concepts in a particular standard and need to see that concept explained a different way. Or the application lessons, which are going to give us that really deep, higher level thinking or higher order thinking, and that critical thinking within these careers. There we go. So first, I am going to look at an exploration lesson. Here we go. Algebra 2 one. Oh no, teachers, let's do one that you guys don't know. How about that? All right. So here's one on rate of change, and I'm going to teach it with the teacher point of view up so that you can see what supports will be built in for you guys. And I would love for you guys to participate along with me. However, I will not force it. What you will see as you enter into our curriculum is that we have a number of resources, a couple of them being lesson planning templates, and other ones being, here we go, my downloads, templates for, or graphic organizers. Here we go, 4.4, I'm so sorry. And so with my student notes, these are editable as PDFs. Oh, that did not open, did it? I'm sorry, can you give me 1 second? There it is. Okay. So these are editable. And so what I can do is differentiate instruction this way. I can take screenshots from here inside of the lesson or, wherever it is that I want to get my information, but everything's mapped out here. I can put them into these graphic organizers. Some students I might give more supporting information, some of them less, but just a great way to differentiate. Okay. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and start the lesson. All right, guys, so here we are, and we are learning about rate of change today. And here, what do you guys notice? What do you guys see? Anyone? Okay.
Hey,
Well, I
Keana.
see it is showing a pilot there. Yeah. Yeah. I can see that it's showing a pilot instead of just showing a little picture of something changing.
Perfect.
Well, and I think too, one of the things I like about this is it actually shows, like rate of change, kids just see a couple numbers in a formula, and I don't know that how well they get it related. But this would be obviously a big time way to relate it. Descent rate, you fly an airline, an airplane, pretty big deal.
I mean, yeah, unless you want to go kaput.
Exactly.
And I've actually turned on the annotate feature. I'm not obligating you guys to use it, but you can. But just, pretty cool. But yeah, I loved, somebody pointed out rate of change, and you guys feel free to completely mark up my screen. Lost my annotation. There we go. But yeah, so rate of change. And then if I were a student and I had no idea what any of this was, I might be like, okay, well, what's a familiar word? Well, descent. And normally you might not know what descent is, but in the context of an airplane, descent means going down. And so, oh, rate of change, the rate of descent. And then I've got linear, and just like that, it's starting to come alive because they're imagining an airplane going down. Landing, not crashing. And so now, as we're getting into this, we're starting off with where we're asking them to consider this problem. It's a real world problem. And so I would love to have someone popcorn. Will not force you, but would anyone like to read it? No bigs. But an airline.
I was going to say, I got you. An airline pilot set the autopilots to the planes descending at a rate of 1,000 feet every 2 minutes, and then we want the descent rate per minute.
Perfect. And so I would just break into this however I normally break into it. If you have some kids that are getting stuck, they're having trouble kind of thinking through where to start, we have conversation cards that kind of prompt you to help them to make sense of the problem and clarify some ideas for solving it. And also some responses for you according to how they answer to kind of get those conversations flowing. And thank you. But yeah, they've got it on not. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just call me. You're welcome. That's all.
What were you saying?
I just said where you said thank you. You're welcome. That's it.
Thank you. Manners, I love them. But making it visual for them. And so when we were looking at those graphic organizers, that's a good look ahead. But here's a way to make it visual. So if the rate of change is 1,000 feet every 2 minutes, and I'm drawing this out, what's my rate of change per minute? So if it's 1,000 feet every 2 minutes, where am I at in 1 minute? Oh, half of 2 minutes is 1 and half of 1,000 is 500. So I went down or negative 500 feet per minute. And just that quickly, they're engaged. And now we're moving on to the actual math of it. So let's find out how. How can you determine that rate of change of linear functions and nonlinear functions so that you can solve similar problems in our career preparation exercises? And so as we keep going, this they don't see, that's for you. So teaching strategies, thinking, explaining that like linear change or rate of change is another way to think about slope. Language support for English language learners. And this language support is just good for everybody, honestly. Culturally and linguistically responsive teaching, kind of helping or having kids bring their lived experiences into the math. So they can be like, oh, I know about slope. Someone in my family is a roofer. And, there's an angle at which the roof, sits on the side of the house. And if you're going down the roof, then you have to have certain equipment so that you don't fall and, let them have these conversations.
Yeah, my brother-in-law always had trouble when he was in math classes at a high school. But you take him out to the construction site, and he could do every slope he wanted.
Yeah.
He just didn't realize that's what it was.
Right. It's like we're doing this stuff every day and don't even realize it. Yeah. And I always think of like my troublemakers, and I'm like, man, they're always so brilliant.
True.
But now we're getting into the math, the objective. Determine the rates of change of functions. Find the rate of change from a linear graph. Find linear and nonlinear rates of change in tables. And then write a linear equation from a graph using rates of change. And all we've done is taken that standard, broken it down into objectives, and each of these will have its own lesson section. And so here, just for your reference, we've got some career connections telling you which lessons to reach back to if some students need some support. And we have a whole other PD series on providing that support for students and making those plans. Vocabulary, prerequisites, but continuing on. So I've got those essentials. Now they're invested. They're giggling because they're thinking of, what happens if there is no rate or no slope, or it's undefined. And so now they're lighthearted. We can get them into the essentials. So we talk about what the rate of change is, and we're getting into that formula, the change in Y values over the change in X values, which is the slope. Once again, your built-in teaching support, warning you about those upcoming errors. And now we're about to get into some examples and then practice. So rate of change of a linear function through the origin. So if I'm determining that rate of change in a linear function shown in the graph, looking at where it's crossing the axes, where are we intersecting? So here at the Y, we're at 0. At the X, we're at 0. So the next time, well, here, let's go through it before I start talking. The next time that we intersect with one of these axes, we're at 2. So what was the rate of change for Y relative to that of X? So if X were increasing by 2, Y is increasing by 3. So Y had increased by 3, X increased by 2. Plug that into my formula, and there we go. And so this, again, is just walking us through the mathematical concept. We introduced them to a career, but we're walking them through the math. And so we've got examples of that. After I have finished just this one objective, I have an opportunity to practice. I've got exposure to another career. Now it's respiratory therapist. And then they can answer those, submit those for feedback, and continue. And then we move on to other objectives. Have examples, conversations, they submit their work, you give them feedback and continue, and then finally we assess it all. And now let's let's look at an application lesson. Oh, what was just happening in my mind? And do we have any questions or thoughts before we get into the application lesson?
No, that'd be one. I definitely want to see some of that.
All right, let's go. So a couple of things that you notice in the exploration lessons, we mention a couple of careers, but in the application lessons, we are digging into one in particular. We've got that quantile measure, which is aligned to your end of the year state assessments. And we have those beginning, middle, and end of year assessments within our platform, within our curriculum, that give those quantile scores so that we can be measuring all along, seeing where we are, seeing what supports we need going into the lesson so that we're not surprised, come May or June. All right, so let me start this over because this is what I do on the weekends. All right, so back with rate of change of linear functions, but now we're applying it. And we're looking at fitness trainers and aerobics instructors. So that career spotlight. So we're talking to students. This is the teacher view with the brown color coding. It's not there for students, but it's there for you because you've done all this research. This was your homework done for you, but you pretend like you did it. But we're talking about how they use science and math, how, let's see. Oh, it tells you to discuss fitness training and aerobic instruction by reading this career spotlight together. And then some other suggestions are look for vocational schools and gyms with fitness training programs, and even have someone, either come in or video call in to kind of get them engaged. Look at local businesses that employ them. And they'll start to see and hear how they use the math in it. And so now we're getting down into the description. So fitness trainers and instructors lead, instruct, and motivate individuals or groups in exercise activities, including cardiovascular exercises for the heart and blood circulation, strength training, and stretching. They're like, oh, I see the science. I'm not sure about the math yet. Okay, well, let's keep going. Of course, they work with people of all ages. They specialize or create specialized plans, choreograph their classes. They're in the human services cluster, personal care services pathway, and then looking at more about what they do. So here, they're looking at your capabilities and training needs. They're demonstrating activities, equipment use, etc., developing programs for you. The required education is usually a high school diploma, but it could go up to an associate's or bachelor's degree, and these are the fields. We're looking at your career outlook. And so this is the salary range in West Virginia, the estimated employment, that 10-year projected employment. And we all know the kids are so anxious to get to the math. But that career spotlight video.
Want to be at the head of the class? Fitness trainers and aerobics instructors are leaders of all their classes. These teachers all.
And a career story where a person that actually works as a fitness trainer can tell you what a day is like in his life.
My name is Kurt. Actually, I go by CJ Chavez. I grew up right here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I am a Del Norte Knight. I actually work as a fitness trainer and group fitness instructor for Evolve Strong, which is based here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but is actually worldwide.
And so they get to see what it's like. And what's cool about this is there are people that represent different, types of people, different genders, different races. So they get to see, they have, a chance to see themselves in the career. So now think about how math concepts will be used in this person's job. Now let's bring in the math. So how do fitness trainers or aerobics instructors apply that average rate of change of a function to solve those problems related to fitness? And so we're bringing back the math concepts, that average rate of change. So again, that exploration lesson, if we needed some support with that content, the actual math standards, those were there. And then when we're ready to jump in, here this is. So I calculate that average rate of change and then I apply it, apply the average rate of change of a function over a specified interval. And so of course that key terminology, those formulas. Now we're going into the career immersive part. And so I've got to imagine this. So I might have my kids in groups and let them work through just talking about what this is asking and getting used to figuring out how to start with the problem, figuring out what it's asking me and figuring out how I'm going to solve it, not even solving it, but breaking into it. And so here, the problem is saying she's a fitness instructor or fitness trainer, and her trainer keeps track of her heart rate at the beginning of each workout, or she keeps track of people's heart rates at the beginning of their workout. And so the beats per minute over, a certain span of time, but in 20-second intervals for the first hour or the first 4 minutes of the workout is going to be shown below. So we're wanting to know how quickly is Danita's heart rate changing during the first 3 minutes, during the second minute, during the fourth minute. And so, a child that's like, I don't need math, I want to be a fitness instructor. Really? Because if you want to get an optimal workout, you need to see how someone's heart rate is changing as they work out. You need to see at which of these intervals the average rate of change is the greatest so that they can get the most effective workout. And so there we have it. We're going into the math. Now, one thing that I love, love, love about this, and we'll look at this in just a second, is how it goes, like it systematically lays out the thought process behind breaking down the problem, and it does it repeatedly so that students get that experience with finding a way to access the problem. And so we might be looking at this table and saying, okay, well, what do you guys notice? And you guys can popcorn out. What do you guys notice about the table?
I think it takes a pretty practical look at how long you're doing this and how high your heart rate's going to get, but heart rate in a realistic kind of way. You're talking about, exercising, obviously the point of exercise is to get your heart rate up, but I think it only goes so far because obviously nobody's going to want to get their heart, like their heart rate to where it's at like 500. Or, they're going to be doing this for like, several thousand, seconds, if you will, because it's just not practical.
I love it. And I don't even think I thought about that because, like, as a lower grades coach, a thing that I would see a lot of times is students' answers would be so unreasonable and they'd have no way of knowing that that just didn't make sense. But you're right.
Right.
Like in this context, I can tell that my heart rate should not be 500 beats per minute. It can't. And then we're walking through these steps. So when I was talking about having students break into these problems, this devise a plan and walk through a solution, we see it over and over again. And so these graphic organizers, again, I might have my groups differentiated. One group, I might have 2 of these steps written out for them. Another group, I might have 1. Another group, I might need to have, 4, and then they've got to go through and explain it. Or I could start with all 4 of them and then gradually release that responsibility as I go throughout the school year. But devising a plan. So first, determine the rate of change during the first 3 minutes. I might do something as simple as ask, how do you know? And they go back and say, oh, well, it says it right there. Okay. And here are the 4 steps. And then next, I'm walking through a solution. And so it's taking us step by step. I'd actually taken screenshots and put this into a PowerPoint. You could also show this, increase your screen, and only show part of it at a time. And so if that first step is to determine the rate of change within the first 3 minutes, I might let my group work through that and then have a conversation about how they solved it. And so if we're looking at that function, f of x, where her heart rate is x and the number of seconds, x number of seconds after x is the number of seconds after she started working out. There we go. And so if it's 3 minutes, that's 180 seconds. So the first 3 minutes, 0 seconds and 180 seconds, etc. And then I'd use that table to look at that rate of change. And so I'd have students talking about this, working it out. Then I'd have them explain. And then we talk about if their solution looks like my solution and how they're, the same or different. And by the time I looked at the changes and the X and the Y intervals, I end up with 70 over 80 or roughly 39 beats per minute is what she was looking at during the first 3 minutes. Those guiding questions. Then I'm going on to step 2. So doing that for the second minute, step 3, and step 4. And right after that, now I have an assessment. It's just one question, but it's letting me know how the students did on that particular objective in the standard. And so they could do this individually as a group. It's up to you. Feedback is here in blue for you. You see this, kids don't. You can give it to them digitally. There's a PDF version of this that's printable, so you can, handwrite it either way. And so now we're going, I'm so sorry.
You said hand it out to them digitally. What's that involved there? I mean, I know how to do it. I just was wondering how it's incorporated into what you do.
Could you ask the beginning of your question again about doing it digitally?
You said that you could send it out to them digitally. Now I've done a couple different ways. I just was wondering if your book has it integrated in some way, like that you have a classroom and you can send it out to like we have iPads.
Gotcha. These are compatible with iPads. And you actually, what we're looking at is what they would see digitally. So you can actually assign them these lessons. So you get signed up in the platform. We're compatible with Clever, and a couple of other integrate.
Lesson on.
Rate of change.
Oh, sorry, dear. I forgot I have myself muted. Didn't have myself muted there.
It's okay. I love the conversations in the background. Rate of change. But we integrate with those platforms. And so they would actually log into their account. You assign them the lessons that you want them to see. And their version of this looks like this, only minus those answers. And so they could honestly even walk through this with groups.
And so do you have real time seeing them put their answers in?
It's not completely real time. It's only like a couple of seconds delay. They just have to finish and submit yeah.
Okay.
Let's go and see some of that, because all we're doing is just walking through some more, and you can see it's in the context of the same career. But where it's going to be, and it might be easier, let me show you this PowerPoint, because the lesson or the students that are in there are kids that I made up, and I also took the test, and I probably didn't do my homework, nor did I grade it. But this is what it will look like. So after they have done these lessons and submitted it, this is where their answer is. And then here is where you have the opportunity. You can score it according to a rubric, and you can give them feedback right there in the platform. And then it's just automatically there for them. And so
you still have to score it, right?
some of them, not all of them.
Okay. So some of them, it'll automatically say, yeah, this is the right answer. No, this is not.
Yes. Or it doesn't tell them, it tells you.
Yeah.
So for example, like when I'm in this, it's set up to where when I'm going through each objective, it's set up to where you score it, because the thought process is that you're giving them feedback because we're still learning. But as we get through all of the lesson, we get down to the practice, and this is their last opportunity to work with feedback. And then for the check, the majority of these are self-scoring, because the thinking is that you've gone through each objective and you've given feedback. So you've had a chance to correct any misunderstandings. Then you've gone through the culminating practice. So by the time you get to the check, it's self-grading. Most of them. There are a couple of them that are not, but about 90% of them are. A good thing that I absolutely love, because I was a queen of, doing certain parts. When you are looking at their scores and you're pulling up these assignments, it separates them into sections. As long as my internet decides to cooperate. There we go. So this one had the build your skills, which would be the equivalent of the career spotlight or on the job. So these here are the ones that you would self-score. So if you don't self-score them, there's no score. And then here's the one that has an auto score, but you still have the autonomy to go in there and change it. So if, if scoring is not something that, if you've already been through this, you've seen them visually, and you just want to give them a score for a part of it, it's automatically broken down so that you can make that choice for yourself. And I will also very quickly show you guys our custom activities. So these are aligned to standards. There are only no standards written here because this is, a demo account for me to show you what this looks like. And we specify the standards for each state. So for West Virginia, you would have your West Virginia standards here. If you didn't want to go through the entire lesson, or if you just wanted to pull out lesson components, you could do a custom activity where you just pull in items, and they're still career connected, from various lessons, make them an activity, and then have them complete that. That can be self-scoring. And it can also be used, like, again, if let's say that you're using us as supplemental and there are a couple of standards that you really want to hit or a couple of concepts, but you don't want to go through the whole lesson, just pull in a few of those problems. Oh, there we go. So let's see, I'm gonna do rate of change. Preview it and see that's one. Okay, that's self-scoring, I'm digging that. And then I can put in maybe, a couple where they need to give an explanation and I need to get feedback. And then I can create that assessment. And then the same way that we had that list of scores, this list of scores for this assignment will also come up.
Okay, now when you're doing the test, does it have the ability to kind of figure out how to randomize the question with answers, different answers for different kids? Putting different numbers in.
I know what you're asking. I'm not sure. I can
Okay.
ask someone that has developed the product and get back to you.
Okay. It's just that's always a question, because you give a test and then 3 kids are asked and then you give it again. You want to give them a different number so they have a chance to go talk to their friends.
Yes. Like, oh, all of you got 100 on day 2.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that.
Now you said something about using this as a supplement. I have to talk to our curriculum director, but I think that would be good thing for this, that we can send this out to those, like you said, struggling students and let them see where this is going to go. Because I know one of my math teachers, he prefers just to do a regular, algebra 2 book. So, but if we could see that because he has a girl that comes into his class for special ed, and he could let her assign some of this stuff to them.
Absolutely. And if you,
Yeah.
have the curriculum, you have access to all the courses. So regardless of what you're teaching, you have access to pre-algebra, geometry, the whole run.
Okay.
Mhm.
I was interested when you said that. That's so I wanted to make sure I made a point of asking.
Definitely. I'm dropping my email address in the chat. And I am more than happy, elated to do with either of you a deeper dive on anything that you'd like. And I'm part of the professional development team. And so not only we do the onboarding, but we have a plethora of professional development opportunities or offerings. There we go. We have a master class, which is monthly, where we do a live session on a topic. It's recorded and you can get professional development credits for completing it. We have an asynchronous learning course where you can log on anytime. We've got literature, and then we can actually contract with your school to do some separate, professional developments according to your needs. I have dropped my email address there. Nicole Stanley was on, she hopped off. If you'd like a demo account, let me know and give me your email address. I'll give it to her. And then again, any session that you guys want me to do, as a one-off for other teachers or your school, happy to do it.
Yeah, actually, I'm signed up to do. There's a couple more of these that are going to go on, and so I had signed up for those all 4 today or 3 today. So
Perfect.
and I appreciate your time. So
Very welcome. All right, guys, you're free to go. I hang around if you have questions, but otherwise,
thank you.
very welcome.